Hello book lovers, I know it's November, but this one here is my June wrap-up. What can I say? First up, The Long Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flanagan. The 2014 Man Booker Prize winning novel tells the story of Australian doctor Doerr Evans, a former Japanese prisoner of war on the Burma Railway who became a war hero. Interwoven with his time in Burma is the story of Doerr before the war and after his return from the prison camp. His life, his marriage, the tragic love affair with his uncle's second wife, his failings and his memories of the killings he had to witness. It took me a while to read. I found it brutally realistic and I had to stop on numerous occasions because my heart was aching. This here is highly recommended. Next up was J.D. Salinger's For Esme with Love and Squalor, aka 9 Stories. These short stories were great. I mean, like a breath of fresh air great. They were interesting, they were enchanting, and truly remarkable. They tackle a variety of subjects like death, war, depression, innocence, and human relationships, to name but a few. This is another must-read. Moving on to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This is the first of 5 books in the famous science fiction series. The story starts when contractors show up at Arthur Dent's house to demolish it in order to build a bypass. Just then his best friend Ford arrives to warn him of an impending apocalypse, and they manage to hitch a ride on a Vogon ship before Earth is destroyed. I won't give up any more of the plot because I don't want to spoil it, but I will say this: Vogons rule. Also, you should totally read this because it's super fun and super smart. After that, I moved on to Marjane Satrapi's Persepolis. Satrapi's autobiographical graphic novel talks about her childhood and early adulthood in Iran during the Islamic Revolution. It's a very touching and powerful story that is enhanced by the simplicity of the black and white illustrations. The perfect balance of humor and tragedy, and a very realistic portrayal of what happens during a war from a civilian's perspective. My next read was Panic by Lauren Oliver. So what do you do when you're bored and you're living in a small town of 12,000 people in the middle of nowhere? Well, compete in an annual game that might take your life, of course. Panic is a game played by graduating high school seniors in order to get several thousands of dollars in weed that is later sold on for cash. The story is meh. And the characters are annoying, blunt, and insecure, and extremely unbelievable. After that disappointing read, I moved on to James Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. This was my first James Joyce, and it was his very first novel. The story is about Stephen Dedalus, an Irish lad, and his journey to adulthood through the notions of politics, religion, family, and aesthetic expression. I'll admit that at times it pained me to keep reading it. I don't fare well with books that delve so much into religion and all the ways you have to repent in order to get to heaven and all. His writing is unarguably fantastic, but it was just a little too much for me. Next up was Indiscretion by Charles Dubow. A 40-something couple are living the perfect life until a 20-something-year-old girl is set on tearing them apart. The story is narrated by the family's closest friend. Imagine a modern-day Nick Carraway. And I have to say that I really enjoyed this tragic tale of love and loss and pretty bad decisions. It was the perfect beach read. After that, it was back to science fiction and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. One of the most famous science fiction novels out there, Philip K. Dick's awesomeness transports us to a post-apocalyptic future where animals are extinct or endangered, and androids are getting more and more intelligent and therefore more dangerous. Rick Deckard, a bounty hunter, is set to retire 6 advanced androids in order to get a real animal, which is an important status symbol. But somewhere along the way, he falls in love with Rachel, a legal android who's unaware of her synthetic origins. This is a novel full of symbolisms, and although sad and depressing, it poses some pretty deep questions about human traits such as empathy, faith, and the desire to seek progress no matter how bleak the situations are. As you can probably guess, I loved it. My next read was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, winner of the 2015 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. The novel is set in occupied France during the Second World War and centers around a blind French girl, Marie-Laure, and a German boy, Werner, whose stories collide. Despite its size, it's a rather quick read. It's beautifully written and the characters are immensely lovable. If you're into historical fiction, then this one's for you. My last read for June was John Steinbeck's Cannery. Another one of Steinbeck's novels that gave me serious wanderlust. Now all I want to do is go to Monterey, California. There isn't much of a story, but the depiction of the lives of a group of people living there during the Great Depression. It's humorous and sad, but thankfully not depressing at all. Another hit for Mr. Steinbeck. That was it. Whew! See you in a few days with July's wrap-up.